The wind out here did not feel like air. It felt like a cruel hand dragging dust across the earth, as if it was trying to erase every living thing from existence. Eliza Carter kept walking anyway. One step, then another. Stopping meant dying. Her small boots were torn at the edges, letting sand slip inside with every step. Her lips were cracked, bleeding in thin lines. Her throat burned so badly it felt like she had swallowed fire. The sun above her was a hard white coin, merciless and still, watching her struggle without mercy. She was only 11 years old, and she had already learned what it meant to be unwanted. In her right hand, she carried a dented iron pan. It was too heavy for her thin arm, dragging her shoulder down with every step, but she refused to let go. In her left hand, she clutched a tiny cloth bundle tight against her chest. The pan was for survival. The bundle was for love. Inside were the last things her mother had left her: dried herbs, a small wooden spoon, and a folded scrap of cloth that still carried a faint, fading smell of home. Eliza had not cried in 3 days. There were no tears left. Her stepmother had made sure of that. "Useless girl," the woman used to say, her voice sharp like broken glass. "You eat like a burden and work like a ghost." Her father never stopped her. He just looked away. That was worse. The last time, Eliza had not been fast enough bringing water from the well. The bucket had slipped, spilled. That night, she wasn't given food. The next morning, she wasn't given a choice. "Get out," her stepmother said, pointing to the open land. "If you can survive, then maybe you're worth something." Her father stood in the doorway, silent. Eliza waited just for a second, hoping he'd turn away. So she left. Now the world stretched around her in endless dust and silence. No trees, no houses, no voices, just wind and heat and the sound of her own weak breathing. Hunger wasn't pain anymore. It was emptiness, a hollow space inside her that made everything feel far away, like she was walking through a dream she couldn't wake from. But still she walked, because she remembered something: her mother's voice. "Food is more than eating, Eliza," she used to say gently. "It's how we remind people they're not alone." Eliza tightened her grip on the cloth bundle. She wasn't alone. Not yet. Near sunset, her legs finally began to shake. The world tilted, the horizon blurred, and then she saw it. At first, it looked like a trick of the light, a lie made by heat and exhaustion. But as she moved closer, shapes began to form. Buildings, crooked, quiet, still, a town. A broken wooden sign creaked in the wind, hanging by a single rusted nail. Sand Hollow. The name felt empty, like the place itself. Eliza stepped into the town slowly, her heart beating faster. Not from hope, but from caution. Places like this didn't hold kindness. They held silence and sometimes danger. The street was covered in dust. No footprints, no voices, no life, just ghosts of something that used to exist. She didn't look for people. She looked for water. In the center of the town stood a well. The rope was frayed, the bucket missing. Eliza swallowed hard, her throat screaming in protest. She untied a thin strip from her dress, tied it to her small tin cup, and lowered it carefully into the darkness. For a moment, nothing. Then, a faint splash. Her heart jumped. She pulled it up slowly, hands shaking with effort. Only a little water. Dirty, clouded, bitter. She didn't care. She drank, every drop. It tasted like metal and dust, but it was life. She sank to her knees beside the well, breathing hard, the world spinning around her. For the first time since she left home, she wasn't dying, but she wasn't safe either. The wind picked up again, whispering through empty buildings like something alive. Watching, waiting. Eliza clutched her bundle tighter and looked around the silent town. Somewhere in that silence, something was about to change her life forever. She just didn't know it yet. Night came fast in Sand Hollow. The heat disappeared, replaced by a cold that crept into Eliza's bones like it belonged there. The wind still howled through broken buildings, but now it sounded different, less like a warning, more like a whisper. Eliza did not trust it. She gathered pieces of dry wood from a collapsed porch, her small hands trembling as the brittle boards snapped apart. She stacked them carefully near the well, just enough to make a small fire. She only had 3 matches, 3 chances. She struck one. For a second, nothing happened. Then the flame flickered to life, fragile and weak. Eliza cupped it with both hands, shielding it from the wind like it was something sacred. The fire caught, a small, steady glow, warmth. She let out a shaky breath and placed her iron pan over the flames. Then, slowly, she opened her cloth bundle. The smell rose gently into the cold air. Cumin, dried herbs, a hint of something sweet. Home. Eliza swallowed hard. Her chest tightened, but she forced her hands to stay steady. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the last thing she had. 2 small pieces of dried cornbread. Not enough. Never enough. But her mother had taught her better. She crumbled the bread into the pan with a splash of water, stirring slowly with her wooden spoon. Then she added a tiny pinch of herbs. The smell changed instantly. It wasn't much, but it was something. And in a dead town like Sinhala, it felt like a miracle. Eliza ate slowly, taking small bites, making it last. The warmth spread through her chest, softening the cold just enough to breathe again. She was just about to clean the pan when a sound, hoofbeats. Her body went still, slow, heavy, coming closer. Eliza grabbed the pan tightly, her small fingers wrapping around the handle. Her heart pounded so loud she thought it might give her away. The sound stopped, right behind her. She turned slowly. A horse stood in the shadows, large, dark, breathing clouds into the cold air. And beside it, a man, tall, broad shoulders, still as stone. His coat was long and dust-covered, his hat pulled low, hiding most of his face. But the part she could see, the sharp jaw, the hard mouth, told her enough. This was not a kind man. He didn't move right away. He just stood there, watching her. Eliza tightened her grip on the pan. "I don't have anything," she said quickly, her voice small but firm. "Nothing worth taking." The man stepped forward slightly. The firelight touched his face. His eyes were cold, not angry, not cruel, just empty. "That's so," he said quietly. His voice was deep, calm, dangerous in a way she couldn't explain. His gaze shifted from her face to the pan, then to the small bundle beside her. He took another slow step closer. Eliza's heart raced. "Run." That voice in her head screamed it, but her legs wouldn't move. The man stopped just outside the firelight. He didn't reach for her, didn't threaten her. He just breathed in, once, twice, and something changed. His eyes narrowed slightly. "That smell," he muttered. Eliza blinked, confused. He looked at her again, this time not like she was nothing, but like she was something he couldn't quite understand. "You made that?" he asked. Eliza hesitated, then nodded. "It's just bread and herbs," she whispered. The man stared at the pan for a long moment. Then, slowly, he spoke. "I haven't smelled food like that in 15 years. Silence stretched between them. The wind howled. The fire crackled. Then he did something unexpected. He stepped closer and sat down across from her fire. Eliza froze. "You got any left?" he asked. Her fingers tightened around the pan. This was dangerous. Everything about this was dangerous. But something in his voice, it wasn't hunger. It was something deeper, something broken. Eliza looked down at the small amount left in the pan, then back at him, and without a word, she pushed it toward him. The man stared at it for a second, then at her, and in that moment, neither of them knew that this single meal was about to change both of their lives forever. The man ate slowly, not like someone starving, but like someone remembering. Eliza sat still, watching him from across the fire. Every movement he made felt careful, controlled. He didn't rush, didn't waste a single bite. When he finished, he didn't speak right away. He just stared at the empty pan. Then he looked up at her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Eliza," she replied softly. "Eliza Carter." He nodded once. "Name's Victor Hale." The name meant nothing to her, but it would. Soon. Victor stood, brushing dust from his coat. He walked back to his horse. then paused. "You got anywhere to go, Eliza?" he asked without turning. She shook her head. "No." A long silence followed. The wind moved through the broken town, carrying that same hollow sound. Victor glanced over his shoulder. "Then you're coming with me." Eliza's heart skipped. "What?" He turned fully now, his sharp eyes locking onto hers. "You cook for me," he said. "Now I don't leave you here to die." His tone wasn't soft. It wasn't kind. It was final. Eliza hesitated. Everything in her life had taught her one thing: don't trust easily. But staying here meant death. And this man, he hadn't taken anything from her. He had asked. That alone made him different. Slowly, she stood and picked up her bundle. Victor walked over, lifted her effortlessly onto the horse, then mounted behind her. His presence felt solid, like a wall at her back. "Hold tight," he said. And then they rode. By morning, the desert had changed. The empty land slowly gave way to fences stretching across the earth like lines drawn by power. The ground looked less wild, more controlled. Eliza noticed it immediately. "This isn't the same place," she whispered. Victor didn't answer. Ahead of them, something massive rose into view. A ranch, not just any ranch. A kingdom of land and labor. Large wooden buildings stood strong and clean. Corrals stretched wide, filled with powerful horses. Smoke rose from a blacksmith's forge. Men moved with purpose, their work sharp and disciplined. At the center stood a huge house, watching everything. Eliza's breath caught. She had never seen anything like it. They stopped at a tall iron gate. Closed. 2 ranch hands stood guard. The moment they saw Victor, they straightened instantly. One of them rushed forward and swung the gate open without a word. "El Patron," he said, lowering his head. Eliza frowned slightly. She didn't understand, but she felt it. Respect. Fear. The kind that filled the air without anyone speaking. Victor rode through the gate like he owned the world inside it. Because he did. Men stopped working. Some removed their hats. Others stepped aside quickly, avoiding his eyes. Eliza felt it then. This man wasn't just anyone. He was someone powerful, someone dangerous. The horse came to a stop near the main house. Victor climbed down first, then helped her off. For a moment, everything went quiet. All eyes were on her. A dirty, thin, barefoot girl standing in the middle of the place she clearly didn't belong. Victor turned toward the man. "She stays," he said. That was all. No explanation. No discussion. A ranch hand stepped forward, confused. "Sir, she's just—" Victor's gaze snapped to him. The man stopped talking immediately. Silence. Heavy. Final. Victor looked back at Eliza. "You can cook," he said. "You prove that again, you earn your place." Eliza swallowed. Her fingers tightened around her small bundle. This wasn't safety. This was a test. A hard one. But for the first time since she was thrown out, she wasn't alone. Victor turned and walked toward the house, then stopped. Without looking back, he said, "You get one chance, Eliza." And then he disappeared inside. Eliza stood there in the middle of strangers, dust and fear. But deep inside her chest, something small began to rise. Not hope, not yet, but something close. And she knew whatever happened next would decide everything. The cookhouse was bigger than anything Eliza had ever seen, but it felt cold, not in temperature, in feeling. The shelves were filled, flour, beans, salted meat, but nothing smelled alive. No warmth, no care, just food made to fill stomachs, not hearts. Eliza stood still for a moment. Then she took a breath. This was her chance. Her only one. She moved quickly. First, the fire. She cleaned the stove with small, fast hands and lit it carefully. The flame caught, growing stronger, pushing back the emptiness of the room. Then she turned to the food. Salted beef. Hard, tough. Potatoes. Onions. Simple things. But her mother had taught her. Simple didn't mean empty. Eliza rolled up her sleeves. She cut the beef into small pieces, letting it brown slowly in a heavy pot. The sound filled the room, sharp, alive. Then onions went in, softening, turning sweet. She opened her bundle. For a second, her hands paused. These were the last of her mother's spices. If this failed, she would have nothing left. Her chest tightened. Then she whispered softly, "I won't waste it," and added a small pinch. Cumin, dried herbs, a tiny touch of warmth. The smell rose instantly. Different, alive. The room changed. Eliza stirred slowly, letting the flavors build. She added water, potatoes, a bit of salt, and covered the pot. Then she made small flatbread with quick hands. Time moved fast. Too fast. Outside, the sun began to drop. Voices approached. Boots on dirt. The door opened. Men walked in, dusty, tired, hungry. They stopped, not because of her, because of the smell. Eliza felt her heart pounding. This was it. She served quietly, filling bowls, placing bread beside them. No one spoke. They sat and began to eat. Silence. Heavy. Every second felt like forever. Eliza stood near the stove, gripping her hands together. Then one man slowed. Another looked down at his bowl. A third took a second bite, slower this time. Something shifted. The silence changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was full. One man wiped his bowl clean with bread. Another stood up and served himself more. No one complained. No one mocked. They just ate and kept eating. Eliza's chest tightened. Not from fear this time. From something else. Something warmer. Then the door opened again. The room went still. Victor Hale stepped inside. His presence filled the space instantly. He walked forward, took a bowl, and sat. No one spoke. Eliza couldn't breathe. He took one bite. Then another. Slow, calm, unreadable. The entire room waited. Eliza's hands trembled. This moment would decide her fate. Victor finished his bowl, set it down, then finally looked at her. And for the first time, his eyes were not empty. They were different. "You stay," he said. Just 2 words. But they changed everything. Life at the ranch did not become easy, but it became different. Eliza woke before sunrise every day. Her small hands worked nonstop, kneading dough, stirring pots, carrying water. The work was heavy for an 11-year-old, but she never complained, because for the first time, she was not unwanted. The men still didn't talk much, but things had changed. Plates came back empty. Sometimes, one of them would leave behind a small extra piece of food, not by mistake, but for her. Quiet kindness, the kind that didn't need words. One morning, Eliza found something outside the cookhouse door, a small handful of fresh herbs. She looked around. No one, but she knew someone had left it for her. That day, the food tasted better, and the men noticed. Victor Hale watched all of it, from a distance, always silent, always unreadable, until one evening, he stepped into the cookhouse after everyone had left. Eliza froze slightly. He walked closer, his eyes on the pot still warm from cooking. "You cook like someone taught you," he said. Eliza nodded. "My mother," she whispered. Victor was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Where is she now?" Eliza's fingers tightened around her spoon. "Gone." Just one word, but it carried everything. Victor looked at her longer this time. Something in his expression shifted. Not softness, but understanding. Then a loud sound came from outside. Shouting, angry voices. Victor's face changed instantly, cold again. He turned toward the door. "Stay inside," he said sharply. But Eliza had already heard enough. Trouble had arrived. And this time, it wasn't hunger or loneliness. It was something worse. The shouting outside grew louder. Eliza stood frozen inside the cookhouse, her heart pounding. Through the small window, she saw 3 men near the gate, rough, angry, and armed. They didn't belong here. Victor stepped out to meet them, his presence calm but dangerous. "She's mine," one of the men shouted. "That girl, she belongs to us." Eliza's blood ran cold. She knew that voice, her stepmother's brother. He had come for her. "Worth money now," he sneered. "Heard she's working here. You don't keep what ain't yours, Hale." Silence fell across the yard. Ranch hands watched, waiting. Victor didn't move for a moment. Then he spoke. Slow, controlled. She's not yours. The man laughed. She's nothing. Just a stray, kid we threw out. Eliza's hands trembled. Those words, they still hurt. Victor took one step forward. That was enough. The air shifted. Then you threw away something valuable, he said coldly. The man's smile faded. You don't understand, he growled. We take her now, or this gets ugly. Victor's eyes darkened. It already is. Before anyone could move further, Eliza pushed the cookhouse door open. Stop. All eyes turned to her. She stepped forward slowly, fear shaking inside her, but she didn't stop. I'm not going back, she said, her voice small but steady. The man scoffed. You don't decide that. Eliza lifted her chin. For the first time, I do. Silence. Heavy. Final. Victor glanced at her. Just once. And something in that look changed. He turned back to the men. You heard her. His voice dropped. Now leave. The men hesitated. They saw it now. This wasn't about a girl anymore. This was about Victor Hale. And no one challenged him lightly. With a final glare, they backed away, then turned and rode off into the dust. Gone. Just like that.